so much. What a beautiful field you created for me to step into. Thank you. And thank you all. I'm told that now you're sort of, dare I say, normal procedure is to go into meditation. But I would like to do that a little differently today. I want to use our meditation time to let you take what we talk about a little deeper into spirit. So I'm going to talk first, and then we're going to move into a time of meditation today. So I'm going to start with a story. Once upon a time, there was a shepherd. And this shepherd had this beautiful flock of sheep. He had 100 sheep in his flock. And he just loved this flock. He took really good care of them. I imagine him with a little checkboard every morning as they came out into the pasture, checking off 1, 2, 3, 4, 100. If any of you ever seen the cartoon Shaun the Sheep? Yeah, so like that. And so one morning, he's counting off his sheep and making sure everything's okay. 1, 2, 3, 96, 97, 98, 99, 99, 99. Uh-oh, we're missing one. And so he says, well, okay, let me see if I counted right. So he goes back and he redoes the count. 99. So he calls some of his friends around, his fellow shepherds, some family, support system, and help me check this. Just double check my numbers. Maybe I'm not seeing something. No, 99. Okay. Somebody's missing. I need to go after this lost sheep. Can you guys stay here and take care of the 99 while I go and find my missing sheep? Sure. So he goes off and he searches and he searches and he searches. And finally, there she is. He finds her. He's so happy. He reaches over. He literally just picks her up in his arms and yes. And then he slings her over his shoulders because apparently that's how you carry sheep. I didn't know that. If you're a lot bigger and stronger than I am. So he slings her over his shoulders and he walks her home. And when he gets there, they all have a party. Look, we found her. She's back. We're here. So how many of you have ever heard some version of that story? Yeah, exactly. How many of you know that that's from the Bible? Exactly. So this is one of the stories that Jesus told his followers. And I like to imagine him telling this story to his followers. He tells the story, and they look at him and they go, okay. Why did you tell us that? And I would imagine that he answered them, why do you think I told you that? See, Jesus told parables to get people to think, to get people to ask questions, to get people to wonder, what does that mean? And so I'm sure somebody figured out that's what he wanted. He wanted them to think about what it meant. So they said, what does it mean? And Jesus responded, what do you think it means? Because it's not about giving a pat answer. I like to think of it as more like the Zen koans. What is the sound of one hand clapping? There is no answer to that question. There is only your answer to that question. And there is only your answer to that question at any particular moment in time as well. And what we learn as we work with these kind of stories is that we can use them as tools to discover things about ourselves, to discover where we're at in our level of growth. I can use the story to figure out, what is it that I value? What's important to me? Where do I have resistance? Where do I need to do some work? So this story shows up in 2 of the 4 Gospels in the Christian Testament. And the first one we're going to look at is the one that shows up in the Gospel of Luke. And the author of the Gospel of Luke takes this parable and he puts it into a story. And in this story, the Pharisees, the leadership of the Jewish community, are complaining to Jesus that he is spending too much time with undesirables, with bad people. In one of my favorite bits of Bible humor, he says, sinners, tax collectors, and other sinners. Tax collectors. So if anybody works for the IRS, I apologize. Jesus said it, not me. So the Pharisees are complaining that he's spending too much, why are you spending time with them instead of with us, the good people? And so the author of the Gospel of Luke has Jesus tell the parable as a response to their complaints. And he sums it up with, there is more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner saved than over 99 virtuous people. And so that's his interpretation. That's his meaning for the story. And so I think about that meaning, and the first thing I notice is resistance rising up inside of me. Sinners, huh? Because I grew up in an expression of church that in the most loving, kind-hearted way let me know that I was bad, and I must never forget that. Looking back, I can see that they did not mean harm by that. They actually thought they were supporting me. I did not find that thought very supportive. So I have this resistance, because when you tell that story and you say it's about the one, the one who's the sinner and beings, I know I'm the bad sheep. I know that. So I have this gut reaction. All right, fine. Set that aside. Let's think about this. Is it possible that it might mean something else? Okay. Maybe. All right. So I think about it. Okay, well, what if I'm not the bad sheep? What if I'm one of the 99? And all of a sudden, I start feeling self-righteous. Ooh. Aren't I wonderful? And I realize that doesn't feel that much better. And then I start thinking, I'm the shepherd. Ooh, I'm the one who gets to decide who's bad and good. Ooh, I don't like that either. That's a little too tempting. So I'm in my head, I'm thinking about all the different possibilities, and I realize this is just not working. And so, as a last resort, I go to Spirit. And I go within, and I see what rises up in me. What rises up. Not what I'm thinking, not even what I'm feeling, but what rises up from that wisdom within. And I realize there have been times in my life when I felt lost. When I so needed comfort. And always when that happened, someone reached out a hand to me. Maybe that's what this parable is about. And maybe when I'm the shepherd, I'm the one who gets to reach out the hand, pay it forward. And maybe when I'm one of the 99, I am part of that loving, safe community that welcomes, says, come in and let us love you. Let us love you. So that's the interpretation of the story included in the Gospel of Luke. And it's one interpretation. How do we know it's one interpretation? Because the same parable shows up in the Gospel of Matthew in a different story, in a different context, and it's given a different meaning. The author of the Gospel of Matthew, in that story, the disciples are doing a little squabbling amongst themselves, trying to figure out sort of who's teacher's pet, who's the favorite. Now, they're smart enough to know they can't say, which one of us do you love the best? So they go to Jesus and they say, who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Like that'll fool them. And he answers, little children. Excuse me? That was not the answer they were looking for. Little children. And then the author of the Gospel of Matthew has him tell the parable of the lost sheep, and he finishes it by saying, it is not the will of our Father in heaven that even one of these little sheep should be lost. And so okay, that feels a little better. I go to a place in that where it's like, okay, I'm caring. I'm taking care of people. I'm taking care of the ones who are lost and helpless and not able to take care of themselves. Okay, all right, let me think about that. I am one of the 99. We're creating a safe space. Yay, okay, good. I'm the one. I wonder who decided I was helpless. I wonder who decided I was lost. How do I respond when somebody labels me as lost? Worse yet, what if I labeled myself as lost? So I'm seeing some awareness in myself. I'm getting an idea where my issues are. So again, I go to Spirit. And what rises up with me is little children, innocent, creative, fearless, joyful. And maybe this parable is about always maintaining those qualities in ourselves. Being that joyful child. And if that quality starts to get lost, if I feel myself becoming jaded or cynical, that I have within me this inner shepherd that can go bring those qualities back. Say, yeah, the joy. So those are the two versions that show up in the Gospels, in the Christian Testament. So as I was preparing for this talk, I was like, I want to go within myself and just see what rises up in me, not in response to somebody else's idea, but just what rises up in me in response to this parable. And so here's some of the things that I discovered. Is it about sinners? Maybe not. Maybe it's an opportunity to notice where my prejudices are, where I'm labeling people as lost, where I'm labeling people as wrong, so that I can notice that and question that. Maybe it's a level deeper than being about innocence. As part of my spiritual path, I've had the opportunity to study the teachings of Buddhism and the idea of the beginner's mind, where you always remain open, always remain teachable, no matter how much you think you know. You look for the lessons, you look for the joy that you get as you interact with others and receive their wisdom. Maybe that's what it's about. Maybe it's about empowerment. One of my favorite teachings in Unity is our third principle, this idea that we create our experience by the activity of our thinking. When I notice my thinking going astray in a direction that's not serving me, I have that Christ within, that inner shepherd that can go out and bring that back in and say, remember the truth. Remember the capital T, truth. Maybe all right, I need to preface this. My dad was in the military for 20 years. And without even realizing it, I grew up just with this understanding. It was completely nonverbal. I had never articulated it. But this understanding of duty and honor and integrity. Deep, deep integrity. And maybe there is some piece of that in this parable for me. I keep my commitments. I live up to my word. I accept responsibility where it's my area to serve. And I live that. And that's important to me. That's one of my most deeply, deeply held values. So maybe that's what this parable about is that stepping into owning that sense of responsibility. This parable is also, for me, about compassion. It's about bothering to notice when someone needs something, when someone needs a hand, when someone needs a heart connection. And it's about sometimes going out of my way and maybe disrupting my plans. I mean, maybe that shepherd had a lunch date, you know? But he said, no, this is more important. This is more important. And then there's the counselor in me that wants to ask this sheep, why do you feel the need to run away? And I want to talk to the shepherd and say, why can't you let go? And maybe we could do a little couples counseling about their codependent relationship. So there's a richness and a depth in exploring these stories. And it's not about finding one right answer. It's about looking at ourselves and noticing what is revealed and noticing where we're strong and where God is really just shining through us. And then other places where maybe we're blocking that light. Maybe there's something to be healed. Maybe there's something to be released. And so at this point, I would like to invite you all to move into a space of meditation and just take what we've talked about over the last few minutes and not think about it, not even feel about it, but go to spirit and become totally present to whatever rises up within you about this. So I invite you at this moment to close your eyes if that feels comfortable for you. Set aside anything that you might be holding in your hands. Let your feet just rest naturally on the floor. Allow your body to settle into the embrace of the chair. Let it support you. And now I invite you to turn your attention within. You might notice your breathing. That deep, rhythmic inflow and outflow. That is the activity of spirit made manifest. next inward breath, I invite you to allow your attention to just follow that breath inward and then remain, sinking deep within and deeper still to that place at the very core of your being, that place beyond words, beyond thought, where you simply experience oneness. Be still and know. And resting in that awareness of oneness, bring into your mind and your heart, bring into your awareness all that we've talked about today. And as we rest in the silence, simply allow the love of Spirit, the wisdom of Spirit to rise within you in the silence. Now I invite you to begin to return your awareness to this time and place. Become aware of your body. You might want to wiggle your fingers and your toes just a little bit to remind yourself of this earthly form. Let's all take a deep breath together. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. There's one other interpretation of this parable that speaks very deeply to me in this moment, and I think also speaks very deeply of what's happening here at Unity of Dallas. There's a version of this parable that is found in the Gospel of Thomas. And the Gospel of Thomas is not one of the four Gospels from the Bible. It was part of the texts, the sacred texts that were discovered at Nag Hammadi. And it's what they call a sayings gospel. It doesn't contain any stories about the life of Jesus. It just contains his teachings, which means no interpretations are given. Nobody tells us what they're supposed to mean. We get to wrestle with that for ourselves. And there's a version of the parable that shows up there that's very different. And it goes like this. The kingdom of heaven is like a shepherd who had 100 sheep. One of them, the largest, went astray. He left the 99 and looked for the one until he had found it. And when he found it, he said to the sheep, I love you more than the 99. I love you more. The first time I heard that, I went, wait a minute. That's not Jesus. Jesus isn't supposed to love anyone more. And I went within. And what came to me of that is, what if that sheep isn't lost? What if that sheep is exploring? What if that sheep represents our leading edge of growth? What we're being called by Spirit to become. Yeah. And so our question, our challenge then becomes, when we encounter one of these wandering, exploring sheep, how do we respond? Do we try desperately to bring it safely back into the fold, nice, familiar, safe? Or do we follow it? Do we meet it right where it is and simply love it? And that's your challenge that you're facing right now. Namaste.